Hello, and welcome to the Creative Director Reacts YouTube channel. I'm Brian, an executive creative director working in global advertising agencies. I'll be using my nearly 2 decades of experience to provide some insight and react to some of the best and worst ads ever made. With that said, let's react. Hello, creatives! Welcome back for episode 3 of my Creative Director Reacts series. Today I'm going to be watching and reacting to the Sony Bravia TV ad, Color Like No Other, the Bouncy Balls version. Just to give you a little bit of background before we watch it, this was an ad that launched in 2005 for the Sony Bravia TVs. This was an ad buy that actually played on Sky Sports before the massive Man United versus Chelsea game. Man United won. This took 3 days. It had like crew members with riot shields. There's like 250,000 bouncy balls. They went around and bought up literally every bouncy ball possible in the city, and they just shot it with these huge cannons down the streets of San Francisco. There's a bunch of logistics, obviously, that they had to do for this. There's a whole behind-the-scenes video that you can watch that's really cool to watch. But it's interesting here that this is actually the launch of the global campaign platform for Sony Bravia, Color Like No Other. Like Apple, they decided to talk less about pixel density, number of colors, and hardware stats, and really try to create an emotional brand platform that the Sony Bravia could then be sort of represented by this campaign and spin off a bunch of new ads for this. They had the paint one, they had a bunch of other ones as well. The rabbits, I like the rabbits one in particular, but for me the balls one is the original. That's the OG. So obviously very important music track, as I mentioned in previous episodes. This is to the sort of this melancholy, sweet, longing soundtrack, Heartbeats by Jose Gonzalez, and created by famous ad agency Fallon in London. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's react.
One night to be confused, one night to speed up truth. We had a promise made, 4 hands and then away, both under influence. We had divine sense to know what to say. Mind is a razor blade to call for hands of above, to lean on. Would it be good enough for me now? One night of magic rush, the start a simple touch. One night to push and scream, and then relief. 10 days of perfect tunes, the colors red and blue. We had a promise made, we were in love. To call for hands of above, to lean on. Would it be good enough for me now? To call for hands of above, to lean on. Would it be good enough? And you knew the hand of the devil, and you kept us awake with closed teeth, sharing different heartbeats in one life. To call for hands of above, to lean on. Would it be good enough for me now? To call for hands of above, to lean on. Would it be good enough?
Okay, obviously this is a 2-minute 30 version of this, but I want to, whenever possible, I want to play the full version, just because you kind of get everything in there, and it's not that long. So let's talk about this a little bit. I mean, obviously the logistics, of this is incredible. It takes a lot of people to make this happen. Imagine having to pick all these up and do multiple shots. They probably couldn't do, I don't think they even did a lot of shots. I think, because when you load these all up, 250,000 bouncy balls, you're not going to get many chances. So I think setting it up, doing like pre-runs where the balls aren't there, but you're doing the camera sets, you're doing like the tracking and things like that, I think are probably super important here. Making sure that you're basically planning out everything so that when the cannons go off and they shoot the balls down, everything is in place, everything is ready. I'm pretty sure they probably had to reset a couple of times. I missed just the nature of these shoots, but yeah, for sure. I think it was like a 3-day shoot or something like that. So makes complete sense. Somebody from San Francisco could probably tell me in the comments exactly where this is. It seems like it's kind of an iconic area. Well, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge in the background right there in the right, can't you? In the top right. So, but I think a lot of fixed camera angles here. I think what's interesting, and obviously the music track really sets us off. It's kind of interesting how they went with sort of the folk, Simon Garfunkel style, where it's just that acoustic guitar and just that sort of, single voice and stuff with a little bit of harmonization in the background. But it kind of, instead of like a super upbeat, playful type of music that, you might assume, so that lends itself to this quietness, right? This kind of quiet feeling, this calmness. But then visually all the balls come in, all the colors, and suddenly it's a tornado, and it's almost like, have you ever been in like a hailstorm when it's sunny and you're in some rare instances and it's sunny outside but hail's coming down? That's kind of this weird, it's kind of got that weird ethereal feeling like that, because you've got the harsh sunlight, but yet you've got the balls of movement coming in, and it's literally just like, it feels like just like hail just coming down. And it's interesting that they also have these shots where there's blocks of colors, right? Like here, there's only like the red, pink balls, and they're coming in from the alley. So it's like almost like floodwaters as well. That's probably the intention, right? Is less, I think I said tornado, but I think the intention here probably is more like a floodwaters coming in, And so the floodwaters are just kind of surging through the streets, and they follow the alleyways, and they fill up the main, and they all kind of converge in sort of one main stream. And you have the people watching and stuff. And I think it's interesting how, like, I mentioned the hail, and then you've got the balls hitting the car, kind of like in that hail reference. But it's also interesting that in other parts of this, they're kind of shown to have sort of a concussive force behind them as well, right? And a little stretch of the imagination that, okay, they're probably not gonna knock over a full metal trash can, like that. They're gonna hit stuff, but like, are they really gonna knock off a shingle? I don't know. That could have been some creative work there, just to show the emphasis of it. I think it's interesting that in a way it kind of shows how disruptive this sort of stream of colored balls is to people's sort of lazy Sunday afternoon life. I heard something about this shot where the frog came out, and I thought what I heard was that this is actually a spontaneous shot, that this was not planned at all. I mean, I guess you could plan it, you could sort of jigger it a little bit by putting, a frog there and then throwing balls at it and kind of making it get startled and stuff, but I don't know. From what I heard, this is a completely spontaneous shot, and that's sort of the interesting thing about being on set, right? And you got cameras rolling and stuff. There is a level of unpredictability that happens, and it's funny how more often than not in these shoots, stuff happens, and some of your best shots are just spontaneous things. It's why also, we take a lot of shots, especially if we're working with talent, right? Because you never know, especially if you have really good talent, You know, let's say you've got a comedian, let's say you got Kevin Hart or Will Ferrell or something who's really good at improv. You want to make sure that you're trying to catch them in the moment, right? So you might feed them some situations, but ultimately spontaneity is what really drives some of this, and some of your best shots and some of the most legendary moments that people will watch in TV ads and be like, oh, that was my favorite part. You know, the director will say, or the creative director will say, look, that we didn't plan that just happened that way. And that's the magic of these things. And that's my favorite shot of the whole thing is the frog. And then you've got more shots of this. Yeah, you have the trash can not getting knocked over, and all this sort of flooding down the street. Obviously the color reference for Color Like No Other. There's the trash cans falling right there. I love how they let the camera kind of just sit and be enveloped by this tidal wave, this monsoon of colored bouncy balls, and how you have bouncy balls that are in focus, out of focus, and it's not a super set, you know, sort of streamlined, highly polished. In this day and age, it would be an iPhone 14 or 15 or something on a gimbal, and you could achieve this. But obviously back then, they had bigger rigs and stuff like that. But just the slow pans, no jerky movements, no crazy cuts, no match cuts that are like super crazy. It's just fixed camera, slow pan left, slow pan right. You know, a lot of times fixed positions, and things are happening. So the camera is representative of you. You're the viewer, right? It's your POV. You notice that there's not a lot of wide, high shots either. It's all surface level. This is like a Christopher Nolan type of a, strategy where it's all almost like handheld shoulder cam, eye height. You know, it's to mimic and put us in the perspective of being on the ground level and watching all the stuff. So if you imagine the camera is basically a human standing there still, and this tidal wave of balls is coming at you and flowing around you, and you're sort of looking left and right, that's what the camera is trying to mimic here. And so you're not going to see a ton of, like, even this shot here, right? It's like you're standing in the street and you're seeing it come at you, right? No huge drone shots. You don't see a bird's eye view coming down. You don't see massive wide shots. Like, even this shot is just eye level. Very few. I don't even know. Is there a super wide? No, even this one, which is a wide shot, is still eye level the entire way. I'm not even sure. I mean, you guys let me know in the comments, but I don't even know if I love this shot too, with the backlight of it coming through the garages. This is very iconic San Francisco, right? Interesting that they have like an old Ford, like a classic Ford there. Oh no, Chevy. Sorry, Chevy. There, the Lost Cat. Anyone actually try calling that number? The balls coming down filtering through the nooks and crannies, and it's just they're sort of getting in everywhere, you know. And yeah, I don't even know, is there a shot that's like unrealistically not? Well, here we go. So this is the final shot, but I think this is like you're transitioning to the end frame, right? So you're transitioning to basically the idea is that, okay, the balls have infiltrated everyone's lives, blah, blah, blah. Now it's going global, it's going citywide, and that makes sense when they are now transitioning to their final tagline, Color Like No Other. And then that's the launch of the new LCD TVs. I actually remember working on a campaign for this, the digital campaign, mainly for the launch of this, doing all the flash banners and stuff. And yeah, it was always, the product is here, but around it, you've got the color, the balls, the movement, the dynamics, all that stuff. So yeah, very legendary ad. I can't imagine the logistics of doing something like this. I mean, the producers, hats off to them as well. I'm going to put the credits, everything down below. That's probably going to do it for me on this one. Absolutely make sure you check this out, and also go and look at the rest of them in the series. That's going to do it for me today. I had a great time reacting to the ad. I'm definitely going to be trying to work out one video a week. So we'll probably try to do this next episode on the weekend and then release it on Monday. So definitely stay tuned for that. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like and subscribe the video. That helps me out a lot. especially with, as a new channel trying to show up in the algorithm. Also, if you know somebody or you have worked on any of these ads, be sure to comment down below and let me know your story. I'm super fascinated by people who have worked on these legendary commercials, and there's a lot of great stories and a lot of insights, so don't be afraid to comment down below. I'll definitely read it. And as always, stay hungry, stay curious, and keep creating.